Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with you all today. Even though I've attended many Layer 1, 2, 3 conferences, this is actually my first STN World, especially here in Hague. So thank you. Thank you for having me here. I think you heard from our operators this morning, and from Intel's perspective as a technology provider, I'd like to talk to you all about how we are accelerating edge and 5G readiness by working with our ecosystem and our industry with you all. When I think of 5G, I think of the enormous deluge of data that 5G has to deal with. I think of the 2 petabytes of data that we will generate probably on an average every minute by 2023. And to put it in perspective, 1 petabyte of data can store the DNA of the entire population of the United States and clone it twice. But 5G, and therefore 5G needs to be capable of enhanced mobile broadband, ultra-reliable low latency, and massive machine-to-machine communication in order to convert this deluge of data into insights and opportunity. And 5G is not just an evolution from 2G to 3G to 4G. It's really revolutionary in its approach. It's innovative, and I like to think of it as it's the DNA for the innovation platform of the future. It's going to change every fabric of our lives, the way we work, the way we think, the way we play, the way we live. And it's also going to change how multiple vertical industries are going to model themselves in their business in the future. In fact, one of the reports said, I think it was an IHS report, that said the supply chain economic output of 5G by the year 2035 will be about 2.5 trillion. And the multiplier effect from that will be about 10 trillion by the year 2035. So in order to live up to this economic promise of 5G, there's a lot we as an industry need to prepare for. The other perspective of 5G that I'd also like to share is how it's accelerating edge transformation. When we started to talk to some of our IoT brethren, I'm part of the network group in Intel, and we started to reach across the aisle to our IoT group, we started to talk about how the IoT edge and the network edge almost form like a virtuous cycle of data creation and consumption. They say by next year, in fact, about 45% of this IoT data will be stored, analyzed, and acted upon at this edge. In fact, the IoT connections, they're growing to be about 31.4 billion connections by 2023. That's enormous amount of IoT devices and data from these IoT devices. And what we're also seeing is how these 2 forces, so not only data from humans, but also from the devices and things, needs to be, again, stored, and we need to move the data faster, we need to store more of this data, and we need to process all of this data from the devices to the cloud. And at the foundation of all of this is still network transformation. While 5G is expected to deal with all this data, both 5G and edge, it's really more than just dealing with this data. It's also about, and you heard from a couple of our speakers before, it's about zero-touch provisioning, services automation, self-healing or self-optimization, and self-learning networks, which can then help to truly deliver on the economic promise of 5G. And when I think of network transformation, I really think of it as distributed compute infrastructure across the network. I think of data centers being distributed across the network so that they can, again, deal with moving the data faster, storing more, and processing everything. You also saw how Michael earlier had kind of defined, hey, what is in this edge? And what we have in this edge is really locations or compute platforms such as the central offices, the SD-WAN and UCPE, our MEC platform, which is multi-access edge compute, radio access networks, as well as the base stations, both wireless and wireline fixed. All of this form the edge. And what we need to do together as an industry is figure out how do we make this highly efficient, how do we make this compute infrastructure in the network highly efficient so it's capable of both edge and 5G. As a technology provider, we have a rich portfolio of hardware, software, and platform ingredients, virtualization and cloud technologies that we are using to help drive edge and network transformation. We're looking at this technology being used not only from the from the access side, which is like the 5G NR radio modem that we have, all the way through network transformation and into the data center and cloud, including AI capabilities that can be used to analyze a lot of the data and provide insights and control. One of the key aspects of our technology is the top to bottom architectural consistency that allows for these platforms to be used at different locations within the network to address varying platform requirements or challenges of compute, network, storage, and even workload placement or workload optimization. I'd like to give you a few examples of how we're using some of the technology that we have, along with collaboration and partnership with several of you in the ecosystem, how we're working with you to address the platform needs or the operator requirements of various locations within the edge. How are we working with you to optimize the platforms, as well as working with you to ease time to market or time to deployment challenges that our operators may have. The first example is that of the central office. Today's central office typically deals with about 5,000 subscribers. But as we look to re-architect or almost re-innovate the next generation central office with our technology, we're looking at being capable of handling about 35,000 subscribers. Not only that, it needs to be capable of both fixed and mobile convergence. But in addition to that, what I think is the most exciting aspect of re-architecting the central office or the NGCO is the ability to have services and applications in analytics and AI, media and immersive experiences, and IoT, all of these hosted on an NGCO so that those experiences can be delivered to the consumers, thereby not only meeting consumer expectations of new services, but also working towards keeping down operator costs, operator OpEx and CapEx costs. And we're working with several partners in the industry to re-architect this. We're also working with some of the standards communities to define a reference architecture for the NGCO. And I believe there's one in our Intel booth where we're looking at how do we performance optimize a virtual BNG to achieve higher performance on an NGCO. The next example is that of a universal CPE, where we're looking at, hey, how do we deliver managed services to enterprises while keeping their WAN infrastructure costs down and allowing them to manage these services and applications in a software-defined interface or a software-defined infrastructure. Again, here, we're using our technology ingredients, but working with various members in the ecosystem to define, hey, an optimized, pre-integrated, or verified solution that can be easily consumed by the industry in order to drive faster time to deployment for the operators. So this is one of the what we call the Intel Select solution for UCPE, which was again defined and designed by working with various members of the ecosystem. And this pre-integrated verified configuration can help hasten time to development and time to deployment. The next example, very near and dear to my heart, it's visual cloud or media. And it's near and dear to my heart because one day I want to be capable of watching my teenage son playing his tennis match while I'm away at business. I want to be able to use AR and VR and immersive media experiences so that I can feel like I'm right there by the courtside watching him play. They say media is growing at about 45% annually, and it constitutes about 73% of all mobile data traffic. So it's one of the most important workloads that we need to address at the edge. And we look at some of the hardware, software, and platform ingredients. We're looking at packaging it to not only address media processing and delivery, but also media analytics, immersive experiences, cloud gaming, cloud graphics, and looking at also open source software libraries that can work across our hardware platforms from top to bottom so that the operators can determine, again, where would they want to provide or deliver these types of media experiences at different locations by having varying platform requirements of compute storage and workload placement. The other examples, I want to start with what we had kind of defined. This is a MAC reference architecture or a multi-access edge compute reference architecture. And we defined it using some of our hardware components, compute, storage, and networking, as well as some of our accelerator technologies like FPGAs and Quick Assist for crypto. We used that, and using that, we built upon it, another software library that we call the Network Edge Virtualization. It's a freely available piece of software. We used these software ingredients to define this edge architecture, so we could then utilize this into various other IoT verticals. So we're using this reference architecture. And in fact, working with some of our partners on the industrial side, the Industrial 4.0 team within Intel, in order to deliver to their industrial customers capabilities of driving factory automation, insights, and control for their factory floors. So they are most interested in things like extremely low latency. So if they want to control robots on a factory floor, they want latencies even lesser than a millisecond. They want to be able to have real-time control. So we're working with them to integrate some of the real-time, low-latency libraries into our edge reference architecture so that can be used within an industrial setting. And we're trying to do the same from a retail perspective as well, so that it's capable of handling, secure transactions as well as sensor fusion from, multiple RFID sensors. So all of this, I think we still look to collaborate with the open source community, with our network builders partners, as well as with our the bigger service provider community. One example of such a partnership was at the Winter Olympics in South Korea. We worked with with our South Korean operators there to have the first 5G live network. This was 22 links across 10 sites that handled about 3,800 petabytes of data. They were able to enjoy the Olympics from multiple angles, with live video, as well as immersive experiences. So this is a great example, again, of how we use technology, but in partnership with the industry to deliver 5G experiences. We're also working closely across the open source community, and I happen to agree with the earlier speakers. We need more cohesion, more collaboration across these varying standards, so there's less fragmentation. I think that helps the industry overall, not just as a technology provider, but also from an operator perspective as well. We continue to work with our network builder partners. We have more than 300 partners supporting 82 plus POCs and trials. We also have 30 plus service providers who've joined our community so they can influence the solution requirements as well as the solution configurations to allow for them to be used in their networks. In addition, we have what we call Intel Select solutions. These are configurations that are pre-integrated and verified for both NFVI and UCPE. We have worked on this configuration with our customers and the operators to kind of define what would be the ideal configuration for them to help jumpstart their development process so that we can hasten their time to market. And with that, I am extremely pleased to announce the Intel Select solution for NFVI that's based on the Nokia Airframe data center solution. So it's Nokia's commercial solution that is based on the Intel Select solution for NFVI that's available. So thank you to our partners in Nokia for creating this Intel Select solution, and I'm extremely pleased to announce that today here. In addition to working with, like I said, some of the industry ecosystem partners, we continue to work across the globe with several operators and several partners on varying trials so that we can make 5G and edge a reality. So we're working on several use cases as well as interoperability POCs and trials across the globe. So we have more than 25 of these 5G trials across the globe. In summary, I think no matter how we look at 5G and the edge, at the foundation, we need to have network transformation. We need to have network transformation to have an agile, programmable, and intelligent, scalable, and composable network that can fully unleash the economic promise of 5G and the edge. We are, working with the industry to power the first wave of 5G networks, as was seen, in the Winter Olympics. And our partnerships, our continued partnerships in the industry are really important for continued innovation, because that continued innovation can, again, truly unleash the promise of 5G. Thank you all.